What's going on, ladies and gents, and welcome back to more Rainbow Six Siege. And today, we're going to be talking about the new leaked operator for Operation White Noise. Now, to be straight up with you, I'm not even going to try to pronounce her name because I'm terrible with it, but today I am joined with my good friend Ryan, or Salt Shaker Studios. What's going on, Ryan?
Not much, I'm just chilling out with you.
I feel you on an emotional level and a physical level. So, today we wanted to talk about this new operator and mainly why we think a hacker operator, in the main sense of how people expect them to be, say hacking cameras and gadgets like that, is a terrible addition to Rainbow Six Siege, and why instead of introducing so many new operators, how just making simpler operators better would be more beneficial instead of adding 500 operators to this game like Ubisoft's current intentions are. So some major key things, as I said, we will be covering. The most important one, though, is this new operator. So, let's talk about her. Ryan, what are your thoughts as a player, as someone who plays Rainbow Six Siege? What are your thoughts on a person that can just say hack all the cameras on your team?
I don't know, depending on, Siege's, their standpoint on what they want to do with hacking. If they want it to so you can actually use their cameras, like the defensive team's cameras, and physically use them to spot, sure, in concept it sounds okay, but in practicality, the defense team will just think, okay, I'll just shoot out, all the cameras near the objective so they can't see anything. And it's also, lessening the role of Twitch, which is to get rid of cameras. So I don't think, if you have a Twitch and this hacking operator on the same team, you're kind of having a conflict of interest, and it's not really, useful.
Exactly. It messes with
the whole purpose of Twitch.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say it messes with the synergy of the game, right? You don't want if you had an operator on offense that could rebuild walls, and he was paired with Sledge, well, that might not be a good pairing because that's counter interest. So if you have all these units like say, Twitch, Thatcher, any other person that can do well with destroying gadgets. Fuse, with his fuse balls, he can wipe out fleet of area with his explosive charges, or even Ash with their breaching charges. They're good at taking out, say, castle doors and stuff at long distances. It seems counterintuitive to have someone working backwards in that point and not taking out gadgets and leaving them standing. At the same time, you're also then removing the concept of having differences between offense and defense. If you have someone whose intentions is just to take over the defenders' roles, then there's going to be a less pick rate for those defenders. On top of that, you can also look at some traps that this person may or may not be able to hack, like Ella's charges or Frost mats. She might be able to hack, say, a Valkyrie camera, but if it's thrown up high enough, it might not be able to be, might not be subject to be interfered or anything along those lines. And to bring that into a more of a perspective, if you look at other operators in the game, if you look at, say, Thatcher just taking out gadgets, or Twitch just taking out gadgets, it gets the point done quickly in Siege. You only have such a time frame in Rainbow Six as it is, where it's either looking towards getting into the objective, flanking, anything along those lines. You just want to get in and get done with it, especially in ranked where you have a less minute to do so. So if you're having someone who's taking their time then to hack cameras, and say this person may only have a limited time of hacks, well, if they can only view through 2 cameras, or say swap the enemy's cameras twice, or 2 hacks, or whatever, she has a limited number of resources, well then she's kind of useless at that point because you've then wasted everything. So the real way you look at it, it's either you're completely making everyone on defense who has a trap really useless and turning it against them, or you're looking at someone who then only has really very little resource, and you could have just replaced once again by someone else who has, say, more killing potential, anyone, because she has a primary DMR and a shotgun for some reason, and a backup SMG, which would not help her in the longer range engagements that offense usually starts off with. If that makes any sense. So something Ryan and I were also talking about is just operators being better than other people, and Ryan had some good points. So I'm going to let him talk about just the comparison between lesser operators and operators that do their jobs better. All right, go for it, Ryan.
Well, it's just the whole problem is, Rainbow Six is just keep putting in operators, that do things subpar. Like my best analogy is if you look at Capitao, he has the crossbow that can shoot fire bolts or smoke grenades. Well, the problem with him is if you have, like, say, a Fuse, Fuse's gadget is just way better at, dealing damage to an area of effect. If you're using the fire arrows, to zone an area off, Monty is much, better because he can block on an entire doorway and he's permanent. And if you want, smoke cover, a whole bunch of operators can bring smoke grenades. So I think, instead of introducing, this character who can hack stuff, use cameras and all that, I think they should just bring it down to a much more simpler, like core mechanic that hasn't been done and is actually quite viable. Sure, it might be simple, but it's actually useful. So yeah, that's my analogy with Capitao, is just the role he plays is just a subpar of, a mix of, two other operators. So I think, compared to, I think for this new operator that they're introducing, this hacking operator, I think they should go, a route that, hasn't been done and doesn't conflict with new operators. Make it simple, but make it viable.
Right, and just to add to Ryan's point on comparing two operators to each other, let's look at Ying. Ying could have been something way better than she came out to be. Of course, a cluster of flashbangs seems fantastic, but if you gave the ability to Ying to, say, temporarily disable gadgets, imagine how much more lethal synergy she could have. It seems that Rainbow Six wants, or Ubisoft wants to take away the lethality of these gadgets and just making them, like, forget, just leave and forget, fire and forget, dumb missiles, if you will. Like Capcan, no longer lethal, things along those lines. So if you had Ying, imagine if she was able to release her flashbangs and then temporarily disable a Capcan trap, or a Lesion mines, or anything along those lines that would hinder your team from getting in, and then after the flashes go off, you guys make this hot breach storm and actually take the objective like a legitimate SWAT team almost, you would have a lot more fun, and Ying could be such a more high-tier operator than her current, like, bottom pick with IQ and Capitao at this point. It's really Ubisoft not wanting to have such a small roster for a game that they don't want to proceed with too far in the future, and it's just something that they need to understand, is that instead of adding little effects to people, make bigger ones for simpler people. There's a reason why Ashe gets picked so much, is because of her utility and her lethality. If you had some powerful utility with other operators, they get picked more. There's a reason why Thatcher Thermite is a powerful combo. But really, it stops with a lot of combos. A lot more combos come now with defense, with traps. You have the insta-kill with Frost and Lesion. You have Lesion and Capcan just slowing everything down. You have zone control. You have better synergy with defense. But if you had better synergy with offense, it could make your life against the trap meta a lot easier, instead of just having someone who, say, spams flashbangs all over the place and really nothing happens, to where now you have more entry options and this whole new level of breaching clear that was never available to some people. So I don't know if Ryan's got any opinion on this, but I do have something that I personally like to see changed for this new operator that's coming into the game, and I wanted her to, say, maybe have an ability that allows her to scramble, just general gadgets, like how I described for Ying. She has this device. She places it down near an area, and then she can simply scramble a mute jammer, a Capcan trap, a Lesion mine, then, say, allows her to push in hard on the objective and use that shotgun and use those SMGs at the effective ranges, give her flashbangs, allow her to be a utility that allows people to storm the objective and push hard and push fast. Maybe it doesn't stop bandit traps, maybe it doesn't stop mute jammers, maybe mute jammers stop it. The important thing about Siege is also, if you bring someone in who's a hacker, how do you stop them? You have to understand is that, mute stops thermite, bandit stops thermite, shooting a thermite charge also stops it, but that's very difficult to do at times. So when you look at things like this, how do you, like, as Ryan stated before, if you just have to shoot at all your cameras, well, you're essentially shooting yourself in the foot. Sure, you're making the other operator obsolete, but at the same time, you've also made some of your major intel obsolete as well. Of course, you can run Valkyrie, but she only gets 3 cameras, and on some objectives, 3 cameras, or some maps I should say, 3 cameras doesn't do it that well. Border is a very secure, close map. House is a very secure, close map that most of the engagements start from outside. So you really have to look at this from an outside's perspective. So if you give her an object like a scrambler that allows her to push in with a shotgun and these SMGs with flashbangs and say, maybe she's 1 armor, 3 speed, allow her just to capitalize on this speed and power and make her the most powerful entry fragger you could, well then you've also now added more synergy with other operators because now her and Ash can enter together. Because if her scrambler's blocking out a gadget, Ash and her can now push in. You can now have more power. You can now cause more commotion. You can allow it so that maybe the guy who's bandit tricking has to turn his back. You open up more synergy in ways that you don't understand just by making simple fixes to larger operators, say like Ying should have maybe got with this, but if we're going to keep throwing in little operators, there's only so much you can do with a 5-man squad that sometimes it almost seems like you need to add more people for the right plan to go down. It's almost like if you needed pieces, it's like if you ever played Yu-Gi-Oh! It's like the pieces of Exodia, except you get like 3 Exodia legs in 1 arm. It's really just not helping you in that situation, but you were pretty close to it if you get my drift. So Ryan, do you have anything else to add to that?
Well, if they want to go, this would be my vision on a hacking operator. If they want a viable hacking operator, I would do something along the lines of an IQ where they have a wrist-mounted little camera. They can look around the map. They see something at a distance. They can they have maybe like 5 hacking charges. They can hack I wouldn't say they could hack mute jammers. If she's within a mute jammer radius, but if she's outside, I think she should be able to. But if she wants to hack, an ADS, Jaeger's ADS, so that people don't, waste their, they don't melt their flashbangs, so you can toss a frag grenade into an objective. You can just walk up with a visor, or sorry, the wrist mounted, look at it, hack it, disable it for 5 seconds, toss your frag in, get your kill or whatever you need to do. That, or if you say, hey, I want to push this corner of the objective, but I don't want to be seen by a camera, you can just look at the camera. And so the problem with shooting cameras is sometimes people think, oh, they're going to be coming from this direction because the camera's taken out. But a good way to go get around that is if you look at a camera, you can put the camera in a loop for 10 seconds, let's say, so you can get around a certain corner, duck into a different room, wait till that loop ends, then you can look at it, put the loop back on and walk down another hallway so you don't get seen, but keep the illusion that no one's been there because the camera hasn't seen. That's just my opinion on how to make a viable hacking operator.
I do like that idea where you essentially just make a still image of the current area. Like, say, wherever the camera was last left, it just constantly sits on that area. And then an easy way to tell that, so she's not invincible, but you can tell if you try to move the camera around, it doesn't circulate. It can go,
and it doesn't move.
Yeah, oh shit, we were just hacked. Someone might be coming this way. So once again, it doesn't make her invincible, but it makes her viable. That's the whole point with these things. Now, if just the generalness of her just being a straight hacker and hacking gadgets, once again, if she gets close to an Ela charge, it's probably going to go off. So you would have to make her invincible to gadgets for some time. Well, why would you want to hack a gadget then? Why not just run through a Kafkan trap and mow everyone down? That seems more logical in that sense, especially with a strong CQB loadout that you would have. There's a lot of variables, but at the end of the day, a hacker operator just seems like a really sellout move where they weren't prepared to deliver a strong DLC operator again, and we kind of just got something like this. Ying herself, too, is a very simple design and construct. Not too many people were saying she was a cop-out, but if you really look at it, a non-lethal fuse, it's already been a thing. Originality and balancing siege is very difficult in a game where it's one-shot kill headshots, where hearing and vision and everything matters, and so when you bring in a new operator, especially like Blackbeard, who's technically still the most broken character in the game, because fundamentally, he absorbs headshots. That's his thing. And once you start absorbing headshots, you're now invincible. So you just have to understand that taking certain operators and certain ideas and bringing them into a game where they don't belong really, or where it just messes with everything, isn't a good idea. So I think that's it for me. Ryan, do you have anything else to add?
Just a quick note, just in the whole general scheme, the point you're talking about, don't just, flush out millions of just like bullshit ideas of, operators instead of just actually refining them down to like a good idea. Like I have a theory that, someday Ubisoft might add an operator that can make reinforced metal reinforced walls tougher. Well, instead of making a gimme operator like that, just upgrade Castle to the point where he can, make barricade walls a bit tougher. Instead of copying out, a whole new operator who takes up a character slot for, a niche ability, take that niche ability and apply it to a already existing character. This whole hacking operator thing, that all these ideas we put out, you could theoretically just shove it on IQ and it would just be, it would cut down development time so much easier, and it would make a current operator viable. That's just my point.
No, and I get, and don't get us wrong, we do get the appeal of new operators and new maps, and sure, that's Ubisoft's shtick. But if you look at many other games that say don't introduce, like CSGO, the perfect example. If you look at a game that just refined and refined until it got it right or wrong, and then it fixed what it got wrong, it became good. CSGO doesn't have 140 weapons. But if you look at Battlefield 4 that say has hundreds of weapons, most of them are just subpar. Why would you want to use, like I was literally telling this Ryan earlier, why would you want to use the CZ805 when you could use, say, an AEK or something better along those lines? There's always going to be something better in Siege, and that's why adding so many new operators and just really copying out to what everyone wants is just meh. Now, not to say that there are some good original ideas out there. If you want to check that out, in the end cards, there will be a link to our operator idea videos. Shameless plug. But that will be it for us today. Thank you very much to Ryan for helping me record this video. Hopefully, I'll be able to edit everything nice and smoothly. Check out his channel, link down below. Salt Shaker Studios would also be in the end cards. Do subscribe to the channel. We're like 4 subs away from 6K. That'd be dope as shit. And we'll see you, sexy beasts, in the next episode. Peace.